This video is how to replace your front brake pads and rotor on a 2003 to 2008 Toyota Matrix. Tools you need for this is two jack stands, the jack, a 14mm socket, a 17 and a 21mm socket, ratchet, flat screwdriver, a C-clamp, and I use a bar for the extension on the ratchet unless you own a big long one. First thing you want to do, you want to loosen up the nuts with the 21mm, the ratchet, and the extension. Once you loosen the nuts, you want to jack up your car, put it on the jack stands, and take off the nuts and remove the wheel. Once you have both tires off and you have your car on jack stands, since we're going to be working on the driver's side first, you want to turn your steering wheel all the way to the left. When you work on the other side, you'll be turning your steering wheel to the right. And after, we're going to remove the caliper. You're going to need your 14mm socket. You're going to remove this screw right here and the second screw right here. Once you loosen up the two screws, you want to go ahead and remove them. You want to get your flat screwdriver. You want to stick it here on the side. You want to loosen up the caliper so it's easier to come off. Just wiggle it, and it should come off pretty easy. Okay. And go ahead and take off your brakes. Once you remove your brakes with the bracket, if you're planning on removing the rotor, you're going to need your 17mm socket, and you're going to remove this screw right here and second screw right here, which, as you can see, they're already loosened. And now you can take off the bracket. After that, you go ahead and remove the rotor. Some of them are easy to take off, most of them are hard. Sometimes you gotta bang it around here on the sides with a hammer or something. But be careful of not scratching this if you plan on turning your rotor and reusing it. Okay, so now the rotor is off. But before I go to AutoZone and get my free brake replacement, I need to flush back this piston on the caliper. So I'm gonna grab my old brakes, put it right here. Then you grab your C-clamp and you put it here. So now I have my piston flushed all the way in, and that will make it much easier once I put on my new brake pads. So now if you're planning on taking your rotors to go get turned at some local auto shop, you need to make sure that this is not below the minimum thickness threshold, which on this car will be 23mm. So you'll get your digital caliper and you'll measure it here, and if it's at 23 or close to it, you'll have no choice but to buy new rotors. But it's much cheaper if you just go get them turned for 10 bucks or so. So now we're back from the auto parts store and we start putting grease on our brake pads. As you can see, I already did it. I put some grease here on the edge, both edges, and on the back of the brakes. Also, we start preparing the bracket. I took the wire brush and I cleaned all these sides. Now I'm going to put some grease here before we start installing our brackets. So I already put grease on the inside after I have cleaned it with the wire brush. I pushed in my brackets and I also put grease here on the outside. Next thing, we're going to remove this screw here, also as the other one. Careful not to rip the plastic. And then we're going to remove all this grease on both of them and apply a new grease and put them back on. So the rotor is on now. One thing I noticed, when you buy them brand new, they do come with a little bit of oil on them. You can just clean them off with a fiber cloth, and when you put it back on, make sure you're not touching it to leave any fingerprints on it. So now we put back on the bracket, same 17mm screws. Remember, for this one you're gonna need your big ratchet. because you need to make sure that your screws are on tight here. Okay, now that we put the bracket on, now we put on the brakes. As you can see, you slide it in through here and through down here. You just push it in. Same as the front side. This one is not completely pushed in. You just push it in, push in the bottom, and make sure they're good. Next thing you want to do, make sure these ones are completely pushed in good. And the caliper should just go right on. And just remember, there's our 14mm screws right there, and the other one right there. Okay, the 14mm screws are already tight, so that's pretty much it. The only thing left over is to put on the tire with your 21mm socket wrench. And last thing, very important, before you leave, you gotta step on the brakes at least 5 times until they feel really tight, and the caliper could tighten up the brakes, or else when you're on the road and you try to step on the brakes, it won't get any and you'll hit somebody. So very important. And that's it.